Look at this. The annotation that we have discussed in the last class, right? So the annotation that we have discussed in the last class is there are some annotations like @value. Okay, there is one annotation called @value, correct? And we have also discussed about something called @property source. Okay, so this is for injecting the value, right? It could be the static value or it could be a value from configuration properties. And we have also discussed in the session, like how do we create the properties file? These are the things I told in the previous class. Apart from discussing about how to identify @qualifier annotation, @primary annotation. Okay, apart from these things, I told that there is an annotation called @value, there is an annotation called @property source. So @value annotation could be used for injecting the value, and the value could be the static value or it could be the value from the properties file. So if you want to inject a value from properties file, then you should pass a placeholder, and the placeholders we can write in Spring with dollar and curly braces. So whatever you write here, this is called placeholder, and this placeholder should match with the key in the application.properties file. And to load this properties file, then we are going to use annotation called @property source. And this annotation we are going to write at configuration class. And today we are going to look at about writing the multiple properties files, and let us understand how to write multiple property source annotations. Those things we are going to discuss now. Okay, right. So our intention today is we are going to create the next application. In that example, I want to create the properties files. For example, okay, for example, I'm just going to create a properties file called email.properties. And I'm also going to create another file that is called database.properties. Okay, so you can understand that I'm just going to create two files called email.properties and another file called database.properties. And of course, our intention of this example is to know about how we can able to load them into our Spring Bean, and by using annotation called @value. So if there are multiple properties files are there, then we are going to use the annotation @property source for multiple times, because this is a repeatable annotation. So I can use @property source multiple times to load the first properties file and also to load the second properties file. So there are two properties files are available, and I want to load the first properties file and also I want to load the second properties file by using the annotation called @property source. So these are the annotations that we are going to discuss with this point called email properties and database properties. I'm just creating two classes. Okay, two classes. Let's say, uh, one class with @service annotation. Let's say class name is email service. Okay, for example, I'm just going to use one class called as email service, and at the same time, I'm also going to create one more class. Let's say, for example, database service. Or I can use repository annotation or service annotation. I can create two service classes, or I can use two repository classes, whatever it is. So I just wanted one repository class, or could be another service class, no problem. And let's say, for example, here this is going to be a public class. Our intention is just to know whether the two properties files are loaded and the values are got injected to the bean classes or not. Okay. So one service bean class and one repository bean class I'm creating. And let's say, for example, this is going to be a database repository, something. So the properties from email, I want to load them into email service. And the properties from database service, database properties, I want to load into database repository. And just two properties files I want to create. And I wanted a property source annotation 2 times because two properties files I'm creating. And both the properties files that we are going to store in SRC main resources. Right. So first we will like to see whether email properties loaded or not, database properties are loaded or not. Just we want to display the values and we want to check whether are we getting the values or not. That's it. That's the only thing that we want to see initially first. Then we will do some changes to the code and we'll see if the two properties files are containing same key value pair, I mean same key. If there is a matching key found in both the properties file, then we are going to understand about which value that we are going to get. Okay, so then next we are going to understand about how we can able to solve this problem. So this kind of things that we are going to discuss. But first we want to create one service and we want to create one repository class. And also we want to create two properties files. In that one properties file is for writing some email properties. Another properties file is for writing some database properties. And both the properties files we are going to store in SRC main resources. Okay, this is the example that we want. And here, what are the annotations we are going to understand is we are going to add the rate value annotation. And also we are going to add the rate property source annotation. At the same time, we have already service annotation. We have already repository annotation, but I'm not using any at the rate auto void or nothing. We are not discussing about any auto wiring here without using auto wiring. Just only we want to use at the rate value annotation to check whether the properties files are loaded or not. And then we are going to look at about how to make the values in the properties file as dynamic. So we are going to discuss all such kind of things. Okay, right. First, let us complete the code. Then after that, I'll add the statements related to these annotations. So we are going to create the application. Okay. So coming to the example, let's start creating the new example here. Just want to create a file, then new, then Maven project. And in this Maven project, we are just going to create one quick start application. So Maven archetype quick start. Okay. So we are going to choose this Maven archetype quick start. And I just want to enter my project parameters, group ID. Then next I should enter artifact ID. So artifact ID could be our project name. Let's say Spring Annotations example 2. Then this is going to be the version and this is going to be the package. So here the package name I want to use is com.pack.beans. Okay. So this is my package com.pack.beans and this is my group ID. This is my artifact ID and this is going to be the version 001-snapshot. And then next, this is the package. What's the package name? com.pack.beans. Now I just want to click on finish. Okay. Now, once I got this example, let's see how we are going to work with these annotations. First, we are going to open the pom.xml file. And when you are developing any Spring Core application, so what is the one dependency that we need to add is dependency tag, and you know the child tags of dependency tag, right? What are the child tags of dependency tag? Group ID. So what is going to be the group ID? That is org.spring framework. That's going to be the group ID. Next one is going to be artifact ID. Yeah, spring hyphen context. Right. The next going to be the version, right? What is the result now? 6.2.2. So this is the dependency tag that we are writing in the pom.xml file. Next, let us delete the hello world code or the Java program created. We'll delete that file. App.java file is deleted. Now we are going to com.pack.beans, and here we want to say new, then we want to say what? Class. The class name, email service. Okay. So here I'm just writing annotation called at service. So we know the zero type annotation already, right? Email service. And here, first of all, let me add, there are some properties called private, string. For example, SMTP host, private, string. I can use string or int, it doesn't matter. Let's say, for example, string, int, SMTP port. Okay, I'm just adding some properties. Don't worry on that. Okay, SMTP host, SMTP port. Let's say private string username, or any other properties we can take. For example, let's say, for example, to address, private string from address. Just I took some properties now. Okay. And my requirement is I want to define one method, simple method, public void send mail. We are going to send emails later in Spring Boot, but currently just I'm writing only SOP statement. Okay. So what I'm writing is system.out.println. Okay, right? Let's say email sent to address from address. Okay. Email sent to address from address. Then I want to say, okay, then I want to say, okay, I'll add in the next page, next line, plus from address with SMTP host. Just I'm printing all the values, nothing in that. Okay. With SMTP host and SMTP port. SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. For sending emails, SMTP is the server used that I'm going to teach you while working with the Spring Boot. Okay. Na? So this is how I'm writing the code. Now this is just one method I'm creating. Actually, I'm not sending any email. So in Spring applications, we are going to see in Spring Boot, like when we are creating an application, when a customer is going to register as a new user, we will like to send a thanks email to him. Okay, so thanks for registering with us or something like that. So we are going to create one email and we are going to send that email to that customer email ID that we are going to see in our Spring Boot application. I'm going to send email like that, okay, to the Gmail account or any other account. So we have some, email templates available in Spring that we'll discuss next. But currently we want to just display all the values now. These are the 4 values I have with me. These are all what type of dependencies I have in this email service. These are all the primitive type dependencies. These are all what type of dependencies? Primitive type dependencies. If they are primitive type dependencies, then which annotation I have to use to inject the value? @value is annotation that I have to use. Which annotation I have to use now? @value is annotation that I have to use. So sure, I'm going to use annotation called what? @value. @value. Very good. But I do not want to provide a static value. Okay, I want to configure these properties, these SMTP properties or email properties. I want to configure in some external properties file, right? So if you want, okay, if you want to tell the Spring that get the value of a property, the configuration property value, and inject it into this property or field, whatever may be. For that, we have to pass placeholder. So what Spring will do? Spring is going to find a matching property in the properties file. Spring will find a matching property in the properties file. So how do you write that property name here? As a placeholder, we need to write the property. How to write placeholder in Spring? There are syntaxes given. One is with a dollar sign, other one is with a hash sign. We can use either dollar or hash. Both are valid. So I'm writing dollar. I'm writing smtp dot host. Okay. Where I'm going to write the key smtp dot host in the properties file. This is called the way of writing the placeholder. What is the name given within the placeholder? smtp dot host. So Spring is going to search for what? Spring will search for, okay, Spring is going to search for a key in the properties file matching with the placeholder. What is the name of the placeholder? smtp dot host. If it found, then Spring will inject the value of the key. Okay, right? And for that, which annotation that we are using? @value. @value. So when to use @value and when to use @auto void? If the dependencies are like a primitive type of dependencies, then which annotation we have to use? @value. If the dependency is an object type dependency, then we have to use what? @auto void. @auto void. So we have @value and @auto void. Very good. Now I'm going to write okay, @value dollar smtp dot port. @value. Okay. For example, I'm writing to dot address. See, the keys can be anything. Just I'm writing like a meaningful names. @value dollar from dot address. Means Spring is expecting these keys in these are the keys required in which file? Properties file. So Spring will search for these placeholders in the properties file. If the matching property found, then Spring will inject the value. If a matching property is not found, then Spring will throw exception. But Spring will throw exception. I'll show you that. This is one class called email service. But my requirement, I want to create a single properties file or multiple properties files. Multiple properties files. That's why I want to create one more class. Understand? Sorry. A new class I'm creating, and my class name is called database repository. database service or database repository, doesn't matter, whatever it is. I'm just writing annotation called what at the rate repository. Okay, actually, I'm not writing any database connectivity logic. I'll tell you how we can do with the Spring next. But currently, we are discussing about what at the rate repository. At the rate repository is an annotation that is used to represent that this is a repository class. Means this is a class in which we can able to write this class is containing the database operations logic, persistence logic. Very good. But here I'm writing some properties called private string driver class name. Private string port. Private string username. Private string password. Okay. Now here also I took primitive type of dependencies here. Yes, just I want to write one method, public void show database properties. Okay, just I want to show, I don't want that anything else. Show database properties. So tell me system.out.println. I want to show what and what details? Driver class name. Okay. Similarly, I also want to show what and what next? Okay. I want to show the database class name, driver class name. Next, what I want to show the? I want to show the it's not coming. There's an issue. Yeah. Don't worry. Okay, done. So now I want display port, database port. Just I want to show the port number. Next, I want to show the username. Next, I want to show the password. So this is my database properties. So which annotations again I want to write on top of these variables? At the rate value, because these are all value type dependencies now. At the rate value. I want to start writing the placeholders. I don't want these static values. I want to provide placeholders. So placeholder start with the dollar and curly brace. Now I'm writing driver.name. For the next annotation, I'm writing at the rate value. Okay. Let's say database.port. Again, I'm writing at the rate value database.username. Then again, I want to write at the rate value database.password.
Sir, it has to match, right? With the below string variable name,
No,
right?
no,
Or
no, no,
not necessary.
no, not necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So now these are the annotations I've written. So in this example, our intention is to know about how to work with the at the rate value. Now, so far, two classes I've created. One is called email service and second one is called database repository. Database repository. Very good. Now, with which ID that email service class will be registered in the Spring container when the service class is loaded into the application context. Then Spring has auto scanning facility. And during auto scanning, components auto scanning, the Spring will register this class in the container in the application context with which name it is getting registered in the container with the same class, same as class name. What's the class name here? Email service. The ID is also what? Email service with first letter in lowercase. Database repository is registered with what name? Database repository with a D in lowercase. For example, I want to register it with a DB repository. Then what should I write? @repository value equals to DB repository. Is it mandatory to write? Is it mandatory to write value equals to or optional? Optional. Remember that it is optional. If you write, it is more clear. That's it. Okay. Now this is my database repository. This is my email service. Now I would like to create resources folder. Under main, by default, resources folder is not created, right? So what we need to do here, we need to create the resources folder. Now we can see there is a source main resources. There is a folder created here. Very good. Now in the resources folder, how many properties files that I want to create here? 2 properties files I want to create. One properties file is new file. Right click on resources, then new, then file, just file only, right? What is the file name? Email.properties. What is the file name? Email.properties. Very good. There is a file called email.properties, and this is a file that I have to create. Am I clear with that? Email.properties. Then I click on finish. Now tell me here, I got email.properties. Okay. So this is called properties file. If you want to write any comment in that, you can write the comment. For example, email properties. So how do you write a comment in this file, properties file? By using hash. By using hash. What should be the extension of the properties file? Dot properties. That is the name of our extension of the properties file. Got it right? So email.properties is a file, and the comments you can write by using hash. Hash is a symbol, is an indication that you are writing a comment in the properties file. The properties file can store the data in what format? Key equals to value, the pairs. Key is equal to value pairs format. Correct? Okay, let's start writing the key is equal to value pairs. First I'm writing smtp dot port is equal to, order can be any order, doesn't matter. smtp dot port equal to, let's say for example I'm writing 9761, some port, smtp port. smtp dot host, for example smtp dot gmail.com or smtp dot google.com, something. Okay, next I'm writing what are the other keys available. What are the other keys that I would like to write here? To address and from address. See, to dot address equal to John at gmail.com. From dot address equal to Ashok IT at gmail.com. Got it now? Right. So tell me, how many key value pairs I have included? 4. 4 key value pairs have written. This is called what file? Properties file. Properties file. smtp.port, smtp.host, to.address and from.address. These are the 4 key value pairs. This is my properties file. What is the name of the properties file? Email.properties. Next, I want to create another properties file as well. New file. What is the other file that I want to create is database.properties. Good. Database.properties. Let's say I'm writing a comment called database properties. What are the keys I'm writing? For example, database.driver. or simply driver.name, because I should match it with the key available in my @ value annotation. See, there is a placeholder. What's the placeholder? Driver.name. Spring will search for what? Spring will search for a key called driver.name, and Spring also will search for next key database.port, then database.username, then database.password. Okay, good. Okay, driver.name. For example, I'm writing com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Next, I'm writing database.port equal to 3306. Let's say database.username. Root. Let's say database.password. Root. Something, whatever. You guys can see this. Now tell me how many properties files I have created. 2 properties files I have created. One file is email.properties and other file is database.properties. Where can you store the properties files in a Spring in a Maven project? Yeah, in the Maven projects, the resources is the folder, the place where you guys can able to keep the properties files. Here, one of the properties file is what? Database.properties, and other file name is called what? Email.properties. Are you clear with the two things called database.properties and email.properties? Now let us go to, okay, now let us go to configuration class. I'll do one thing. Like com.pack.beans, I want to create one sub package called what? com.pack.config. So what is another package that I'm creating? com.pack.config. What is the other package I'm creating? com.pack.config. This is a package I'm creating, guys. And here I want to create one configuration class. So how do you create a configuration class? Then new, then we are going to say what? Class. What's the class name I want to provide always? App config. Tell me how to mark that this is a configuration class. Suppose I want to mark this class as configuration class. So how can I able to do that? I can do that by writing annotation called what? @configuration. Next question. Now, what about component scan? Component scan is to specify the base package from where the Spring has to search for auto scanning. Okay. So which annotation I should write? Component scan. This is the annotation to enable the components auto scanning feature. Component scan. And what should I provide as a value for this component scan? Base package. What is my base package? com.pack. Am I clear with that? So there is a configuration class. There is a component scan. Am I clear with that? So what is the base package name I provided? com.pack. Then I told Spring will start searching from the given base package, and Spring will also enter into the sub packages and also going to search for the beans in the sub packages. Now you tell me, components sub packages. What are the sub packages of com.pack currently? Beans and config. Right. Now tell me how to load the properties file. How to load the properties file into the Spring environment? By using annotation called @property source. @property source. Tell me what is the name of the properties file? What is the name of the properties file? There are 2 properties files are available. What and what? Email.properties and database.properties. Very good. Email.properties. Again, property source. Database.properties. These are all annotations which are very important in our Spring Boot with microservices. So these are all the different annotations available. One is called configuration. Next one is what? Component scan. Then next one is what? Property source. @property source. Like this, we have all the annotations available. Right. I don't want to create any bean methods in the configuration class. then you can make your configuration class as empty. It is not mandatory to write the bean methods in the configuration class. If they are needed, you have to define the bean methods. If they are not needed, you no need of writing the bean methods. Currently, I'm not writing which method here? Bean methods. I'm not writing annotation called @bean, and I'm not writing any bean methods in the configuration class. Am I clear with that? Yes. Done. Done. Now, this is my configuration class. Now, I want to create another package for main. Package name is com.pack.main. Good. Tell me here, I want to define main class with main method. Here I want to define main class with main method. And now you tell me here. Okay, now you tell me here. I should start the Spring container. Yes. So I told to start the Spring container, we have to use a class called annotation config application context, because it is not XML. We are not defining any XML file in our example. We are going to use what completely annotations, but we are not writing any XML file. Obviously, we are going to make use of annotation config application context. So application context, let's say context is equal to, or CTX is equal to, what can I write? New annotation config application context of, what is my configuration class name? App config.class. So this is a statement. Are you getting me? But this is a statement for which we are creating the application context object. So once after creating the application context object is ready now, right? Application context object is created. Now after creating the application context object, now we need to get a bean from the container. So tell me how many beans are available? How many beans are registered in the Spring container right now? 2 beans are registered. What are the 2 beans registered? One is called email service and next one is called database repository. One is email service and other one is the database repository. Am I clear with that? Database repository. Are you getting these points ready? Cool. Cool. Let's go to this main. Let's go to this main. What should I write here? Email service. Okay. Email service is equal to CTX dot get bean of email service dot class. You can just provide the required type. Okay, right? I told if you provide the ID of the bean, for example, then you should write one more line of code for typecasting. Otherwise, in the same line also we can do the typecasting, but one typecasting extra step required. One more step is required for what? To do the typecasting. To do the typecasting. But here it's not required. Next, I want to make a call to email service dot. What's the method available in that? Email service send. Send mail. Okay, right. Let's give a separator. Similarly, now I want a database repository. Database repository is one more class I created called database repository. So database repository, let's say DB repository equal to CTX dot get bean of database repository dot class. Am I right or not? Now you tell me DB repository dot, which method I need to call? Show database properties. Now let us build this application, guys. So we have something called maven build dot. So tell me here, what is the goal that I need to enter? Package is a goal that I need to enter. Then I'm just going to click on run. After getting
Sir,
the message build
sir,
success,
in database repository, we did not use bean, right? We don't need to, sorry, new command. Or we are using, okay, context. We are using context, sorry. Got it. Under that, you are registered.
okay, we got the build success now. Yes. So now just refresh once. So after once it's refreshed, then we are going to run this application, this main. Sure, we are going to do that. Then we are going to say run as a Java application. Now you can see I got a message as email sent to the to address is john@gmail.com from ashokit@gmail.com with SMTP host smtp.google.com and SMTP port 9761. So my question is, from where all these values are loaded?
From properties file.
From properties file only these values are loaded? Yes. And this is a driver class name, this is database port, this is username, and this is password. Again, these values are also loaded from where? Properties file only? Very good. Good. Come to the point. Okay. Cool, guys. I want to tell you something. Assume that, for example, when I'm writing these properties in a to address, one S is misplaced. I mean, I forgot to write one S. Just I written to address without double S. But actually in the properties file, the property is what? To address with a double S. Now you tell me, is a Spring is going to find any matching property? Is a Spring is going to find any matching property called a to address without a double S? No. Let's see what happens. We are going to get the exception. Okay, good. So tell me, if the value is not present, okay. Now, I think in Spring Boot we are going to get that. Let me recheck once and I'll calculate. So if I don't mention the value, I mean if the matching key is not found, then it is just printing what? The same as placeholder, the same value got injected. Very good. Okay, but in Spring Boot it won't happen like this. You will get exception. In Spring Boot I'll show. But right now presently, okay, right now presently, now you tell me if the matching key is not found, now it is directly injecting this string value $to address, but in Spring Boot we will get exception. Okay, don't worry that. Now the requirement is, if any key not found, then I want to provide a default value that should be injected. So I am writing colon ln@gmail.com. See, what is the use of writing colon? It is to specify the default value. So what I am telling the Spring, you first search for this key. What's the name of the placeholder? To.address with only one S, without double S. If it is not found, then inject the default value. What is the default value to be injected? So when Spring will inject the default value to this variable, to this primitive variable, when the Spring will inject this default value called ln@gmail.com, if the given key is not found, what is the key here? To.address without double S. Correct? Without double S. Okay, let us run this code again. Let us run this main code again. Now we can see, okay, what is the email sent to? What is the to address? ln@gmail.com. Because the key found or not found? The key is not found. If the key not found, if the key does not exist or if the key not found, then we want to tell the Spring that you just inject the default value. So how to specify the default value along with the placeholder? Then we have to use a colon symbol. Placeholder colon default value. Okay, if the key not exist, then default value will be injected. What's the default value injected now? ln@gmail.com. Am I clear with that? Very good. Again, understand. Okay, the key found, no default value required for me. Next. Let's say I'm writing only port, not SMTP dot, just only port. Here also I'm writing only port, not a database dot port, just port only. Port to port. Now in email.properties file, what's the property name? Port. 9761 is a value. Here also I'm adding same key. What's the key? Port. What's the value? 3306. Are you getting my point? Very good. Now tell me, understand. Now tell me, in both the properties files, what are the two properties files I have? Email.properties, and there are two different properties files are there, but both of them are having the same key. If there is any matching key found in both the properties file, then our doubt is which value gets loaded. Which value gets loaded? Is a port is going to become 9761, or is a port is going to become 3306? Because there is a matching key found in both the properties files. There is a matching key found in both the properties files. Now, which one will win? Which one will win in the sense, what is going to be the final port? Let us see if matching key found, what happens. Okay, observe it. Email sent to blah, blah, blah. But see the last port. Port is called how much here? 3306. But actually, what's the port I gave? 9761 in the first properties file. In the second properties file, what's the port I gave? 3306. But in both the places, what's the port I'm getting? 3306. Why? Because if you look at the configuration class, tell me first, which properties file data will be loaded? The properties will be loaded from the file called email.properties. After loading the values from email.properties, next again the values are loaded from which file? Database.properties. Am I clear with that? First values are loaded from email.properties, then values are loaded from database.properties. At the time of loading from database.properties, already port is available. Port is available in the first file also. Then it will override the value. Now tell me which value is overriding the which value? According to our values, which value is overriding the which value? 3306 is overriding 9761. Because in the first file, what is the value for the port? 9761. See the value. Remember the value. 9761. Very good. Very good. 61. Okay. 9761. Now you guys understand that from the first file, first which value is loaded for the properties into Spring? 9761. But in the second file, when the Spring is loading the properties from the second file, there is again port available. For the value of the port? 3306. So that's why what the Spring is doing now? Is going to override the previous value 9761 with the current value 3306. That's why you are getting 3306. Very good. Suppose if you interchange them. If you interchange this. Are you able to get my point? If you interchange them. Now what happens now if you interchange like the property source and database properties and email properties? If I run this code now, what is going to be the port? 9761. Actually, first database properties will be loaded. Port is 3306. But when the second file is getting loaded, the port is the same, the key, but the value is different. So 9761 will override 3306. So if I run this program, you can able to see that. Now see, for the port you are getting 9761. Here also for the port you are getting 9761. Am I clear with that? Next. Okay, now again I just want to come back to the normal state. Tell me what is the key I want to add here? SMTP dot port. What is the key I want to add here? Database dot port. Okay, just I want to show that. That's why I did some changes to my code. Am I clear with that? Oh, just a second. Okay, guys, let's come back. Again, we are going to look at it. Now, I want to go to my email service. Then tell me what is the key here? SMTP dot port. And what is the key here? Database dot port. Okay, now we can simply run this. Then we are going to get the two different ports. Here the port is 3306 from database port. This is 9761. This is from SMTP port. So we are good with the content. Now come to the point. Suppose if I go to properties file, actually at the time when I'm writing the code, the port is 9761. But at the runtime, I would like to change the port. Actually, I don't want to give the value directly in the properties file called 9761. I would like to pass this SMTP port at the runtime. See, for example, if I'm directly writing the port like this, 9761, and my application is deployed in server, and my application is running. What if, for example, I want to change the port once my application deployed in server? My application got deployed in the server and it is running on port 9761. But now I would like to make a change in the port. The port is not 9761. I want to make it as 8771. Then I have to change the port in the properties file. Then I have to rebuild this application one more time like a jar file. Then I should redeploy my application into server. Are you getting my point? I should rebuild it. I should redeploy again into server. So it is a big task. Good. See, in a properties file also, we can add placeholder. So how can we add a placeholder in Spring? Dollar, open the curly brace and close the curly brace. So anywhere if you want add a placeholder, then we can use what? Dollar. Dollar within curly braces. For example, I'm writing, here I'm writing something called email.port. Okay, again, this is going to be the placeholder. Okay, this is going to be the placeholder. Very good. Now, this placeholder value I should provide when I'm executing my application as a command line argument. As a what type of argument? Command line argument. As a command line argument, we can provide. Sure. So how to provide command line argument to this to my application at the time of executing this application? I want to provide command line argument. Okay. So see here, guys. This is main. Let me rebuild this application once. First, I want to clean the previous build. Then I want to create a new build. Nothing but what? Clean space package. Now let us refresh it once. Then I want to go to right click, run as. Normally, we are going to click on what? Java application. But this time we need to use run configurations. What we need to use? Run configurations. Run configurations. Otherwise, right click on main, your project name or main doesn't matter. Go to what? Run as, then click on what? Run configurations. Run configurations. And you got a run configurations window. Run configurations window. Am I clear with you? So in the run configurations window, you have to just identify your application name is selected or not. In the run configurations window, you have to choose your application name in the Maven build. What is your application name? Spring Annotations example 2, either first one or second one, doesn't matter, but just Spring Annotations example 2. The same name will be reflected here also. Okay, just check the name. If not that one, you choose your application name from the Maven build. No, I mean, you're talking about within the braces one. Generally, suppose you are downloading the file. Second time again, you're downloading the same file, same software. Then you are getting within parenthesis like 1 second download. This is also same thing. Second build completed. Na? That's why it is of 1. If I build again, 2. Correct. Okay. So here within parenthesis 1 means second build completed. Okay, good. So anyone you can choose now, second build, first build. So which one I want to use now? Second build. So next, here I should go to environment. What's the tab here? Environment. There is a tab available called environment tab. Environment tab is available. Got it? And under environment tab, now you are going to click on add button. What's the button? Add button. And tell me what is the name that you gave for the placeholder? Email.port. Okay, value I want to enter 8771. 8771. Okay, now we can see the variable name and value here. Yes. Now after entering this value like email port 8771, and now you just click on run. You click on run. Here is my run configurations. My intention is not to enter the run configurations. Where is that option? This is for Spring Boot apps that we can see in Spring Boot. That is okay, but our intention is not this one. Just a minute. think we can pass in Spring Boot, but I'm just going to talk with Spring. Mhm. Okay. We don't want to waste our time, but I'll tell you. In Spring Boot, it's too simple, but I'm just checking without Spring Boot. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. You don't want to waste time. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Okay, currently I'm writing static value, but I'll tell you how we can provide dynamic value. Okay, I'll refer once instead of wasting the time here. Okay, let us build for one more time. Clean package. Okay, right. Let us refresh once. And just we are not changing any value. We are changing with 8761, just like static value only. Then we will see how to pass a dynamic value next. And just we run the application one more time just to get the output. That's it. Okay, so we are getting our same output 9761 here and 3306 over there. Okay, this is the one example in which our intention is we want to know about how to write the properties files. And second thing is where to place the properties files. And the third thing is like how to load the properties files by using which annotation we can do that at the rate property source.
Sir, I have
And
one more.
yeah,
Sir, without writing at the rate property source, we cannot load properties from with at the rate value annotation, only with at the rate value annotation.
no. For example, if I remove them, you are going to get unsatisfied dependency exception. Okay, I will show you the output now. Let me build it again. No need to build again, but still let us build this clean then package. Okay, you got my point. Now there are no properties files available. Now you see what are the values we are going to get. Let us run this application, run as a Java application. Okay, so you are getting one exception called what? Unsatisfied dependency exception. We are getting unsatisfied dependency exception, so and so. Unsatisfied dependency expressed through a field SMTP port failed to convert a value of type so and so. So, but finally we are getting some kind of exception. Very good. So which means what should I do? I must use this annotation. Which annotation should be used for loading the properties files? Property source. Without using this, automatically it is not loaded. Okay, automatically it is not loaded if you do not use this annotation.
Sir, if we
Okay,
use config.xml, then we have to provide the configurations in app config.xml, right?
I didn't get you. Can you come again?
No, here we are using @property source annotation, right? If we
Yes,
use
correct.
.xml file, then we have to specify this property source in that .xml file.
Okay. In case, for example, you are not working with the configuration class, if you are writing an XML file, then there is a tag available in XML file, context colon annotation hyphen config and context colon property dash placeholder. There are tags available in the XML file. If you are not working with the annotations, if you are working with the XML file, then in the XML file, there is a tag available. Sorry, there is an XML tag available. Context colon property dash placeholder. Okay, like this, there is a tag available in the XML file. This tag we need to write. Okay. In case if you are not writing the configuration class.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Now coming to the point, guys. So anyhow, our intention is to know about how to work with these annotations called property source, @value, and how to write the properties files. These are all clear for us. Okay, right. Let me run my application again after adding this. Now we got the response. Cool. Next, come to the point. Okay, right. I'll write the statements about these annotations next, but let us start with explaining some more annotations of the Spring. Okay, right. So far, what are the annotations that we have discussed in Spring so far? First, initially, we have started with our annotation called what? @component. Correct? And you know, there are some child annotations or derived annotations of the component. They are called what? @service. Next, @repository. @controller. @REST controller. Actually, REST controller is a derived annotation of controller. Next, we got @configuration. Configuration. Okay, right? These are all the annotations first we have discussed. After that, we have discussed about annotations called @auto-while. Right? Next, we discuss about @qualifier. To resolve ambiguity, we are going to use qualifier. Next, we have discussed about @primary. So both can be used to resolve the ambiguity problem only. Very good. Next, after that, we discussed about @configuration. Sorry, component scan. @bean. Bean methods are created. Next, what we discussed? @value. Next, we have discussed about @property source. Right? So far, these are all the annotations in Spring that we have known. Out of this, controller, REST controller that we are going to discuss in Spring when we are developing the web applications and REST applications. But remaining almost everything that we can use currently. @property source also we have used. Now, next we are going to look at about one annotation called @lazy. Okay, I'll show you how @lazy works. We are going to look at one annotation called what? @lazy. @scope. @post construct. @predestroy. So we are going to look at about the annotations called @lazy, @scope, @post construct, and @predestroy. Are you able to get my point? Pre-destroy. Very good. Okay. So first, we are going to understand about @lazy. See, for example, I have written one class like this. Just one component class I'm writing. I can use simply @component, doesn't matter. I'm writing @component. I'm just writing simply public class. Okay, it doesn't matter. Any component is, for example, the component name is called scheduler. Means I'm creating one scheduler application. Scheduler in my application. I've written one annotation called what? @component. Public class. What is the class name? Scheduler. I've written one component. I have a question to you. Who is going to register this component in the Spring application context? Who will register this component in the Spring application context? Spring only. That feature name is called auto scanning. Components, auto scanning. So at auto scanning, who is going to register this in the Spring container? Spring only will do that. Spring only will do that. We are not doing it, right? Who will do that? Spring only will do that. Very good. Understand here. But the question comes here, when Spring will do that? When Spring is going to register this scheduler?
When we use component.
Because of @component is registered. Whenever it is registered in the Spring container, immediately the container is going to create an object for the scheduler. Right? Which means whenever any component is registered in the application context, immediately the application context is going to create the object. Able to follow me? Very good. But I want to tell the application context that do lazy initialization of this component. Lazy initialization means what? Don't create the object immediately when it is registered. Create an object of this component when it is going to be used for first time. At the first usage time, create the object. At the first usage time, create the object. Create the object of the component at first use. Don't create immediately. Which means what I want to tell the container? Lazily create the object. Don't create early. By default, what container will do? Container will create the object early. But what I want to tell the container? Don't create early, create lazy. Lazy in the sense what? Right. At the first use, create the object for this component only at the first use, at the first usage time. Don't create already. So for that, at this class level, we are going to do which annotation? @lazy. This is called lazily initialize the object. Means lazily you construct the object. That's what the meaning of it. So to tell the Spring that lazily construct the object of this class or a component, not early. By default, it is going to create object early. But I want to tell that you create the object of this component lazily. And for that, which annotation we are writing? @lazy annotation. So how do I know whether container has created early or lazy? Do one thing. Define just one constructor. Because when object is created, immediately the constructor of the class gets executed. Okay, inside the constructor, you write one SOP kind of statement. And you can test whether this SOP statement got displayed immediately when you start the container or at the first use. If this SOP you are getting at the very first use, what does it mean? It is lazily constructed by the container. If you are already getting this SOP message without use, then it is early constructed by the container. By default, container will do early construction of an object or lazy construction of an object? Early construction of an object for a component. But I want to tell the container, you construct the object lazily. And for that, which annotation I have to use? @lazy. So we are going to see how @lazy works. That's what I just want to show. We have already, guys, observe it. In the same example, I just want to show you by writing one more class. Please try to understand. See, in the same example, guys, I would like to go to com.pack.beans. That's a package I have with me. So what is my package name? com.pack.beans. Now I want to go to com.pack.beans, and here I want to create, right click, new class. Same I'm writing. For example, job scheduler. Actually, I'm not writing in logic in that, just only job scheduler. I'm creating one class called what? Job scheduler. Now, @component I'm writing. Okay. And I also want to define a constructor without parameters. I want to define a constructor here without any parameter. Without parameter, I want to define a constructor to write one SOP statement saying that job scheduler constructor. Just I'm writing like that. Okay, this is component. Okay, so now I just want to run my main class. Tell me, in the component scan, com.pack is a base package. Then tell me Spring is going to search for the components in the beans package. It is going to scan the beans package. Yes, it's a sub package of com.pack only. Then tell me while scanning, it can identify the job scheduler. So this is registered in the application context. Immediately what application context will do? Create the object. This is called what? Early constructing the object. Early construction of the object. Okay, let's see. By writing this main, and you observe. Okay, these methods already we have called now. I just want to keep this code in comments. Now I want to run this main. You guys can see this now. Tell me when I run the program, already I got this message from constructor. What the message? Job scheduler constructor. Means what happened? Object is created. Whenever any component is registered in the application context, immediately the container will create what? Object. This is called what? Early construction of the object. But what I want to tell? I want to tell the Spring that don't construct early. Okay, construct the object or create the object for the bean or the component at first usage time. At what time? First usage time. For that, which annotation I need to write? @lazy. I'll go to the scheduler, job scheduler component. Then tell me which annotation I'm writing on top of it? @lazy. Now run this main one more time. I want to execute this main code one more time. Now see the console. See the console. Are you getting any message on the console called constructor? No. What does it mean? Object is created or not created? Not created. Not created. When it is going to be created? In first use. In first use. Okay, good. Look at this. Job scheduler JS equals to ctx dot get bean of job scheduler dot class. You guys can able to see this? Okay, let us run my main again. Okay, then tell me what is created here. Object is created. Object is created. Now one more time. I want to copy the same statement, guys. Same statement I want to copy. But I want to give the name as JS2. Tell me, this is the first usage. This is the next usage, right? Right? Now you tell me how many times the object will be created now?
2 times.
Object is going to be created for how many times? 2 times. 2 times means we have to see the message for two times. Yes or no? 2 times object created means construct is executed, right? Whenever the object is created, what container will, whenever the object is created, automatically constructor will be executed. Constructor will be executed, right? Very good. So let us run this code and check. 2 times are you getting or only 1 time you are getting? You'll get only 1 time. We are getting only 1 time. Are you getting my point? Which means, see, by calling getBean method, I am asking the container that I want job scheduler object. Okay, how can you read or how can you get an object from the container by calling getBean method only? So I have called getBean method how many times? 2 times. 2 times the container is going to return me the same object. 2 times I'm asking, but what container is doing? 2 times it is not creating the object. It is creating the object only for 1 time, and the same object is given for you 2 times. Are you able to follow this concept now? Tomorrow we are going to see this because the default scope of a Spring Bean is a singleton scope. What is that? Singleton. Singleton is a default scope. That's why only one object is created. Are you able to get my point? Right. Tomorrow I'll talk about the scope. That's a separate thing. But today you understood about a concept called what? You understood about a concept called what? Lazy. Apart from all the annotations, what are the other new annotation that we discussed today? @lazy. If you're at @lazy, then object is early constructed or lazily constructed. What is the meaning of lazily construction? Okay. At the first usage of that bean, the Spring container will create the object. That is called lazy construction. So how to tell the Spring that this object must be lazily constructed for this class? By using annotation called @lazy. @lazy. Are you able to follow me? Right. So this is class level annotation. What level? Class level. So which we can use it only at the class level. At class level, not at the variable level or not like that. Only at the class level. Okay. I'll tell you tomorrow. We'll stop here for today. Thank you, folks. Okay. I'll share this example code with you today in the document. Just try to practice this example. Okay. About this lazy, I'll tell you tomorrow. About this lazy, I'll tell you, sorry. About this scope, I'll tell you tomorrow, but you understood about what is lazy. I do not want to mess up this. This is only to show you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So today we have a class of Java at
No,
2:30. No?
no, 2:30. We are finished at 2:30.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So we will continue tomorrow, folks.